capacity at that moment to understand all of small business planning. Those resources, okay, are going and invested in that person, okay, which they may not understand it at that point in time. And we may not be able to help someone who does, okay? And we have to have the ability to address both. But if we don't discuss social entrepreneurship, social innovation, these small things don't come out, and they're unaddressed, and we're looking for solutions to other problems without necessarily understanding some of the causes.
I agree. Now, who would be some of the stakeholders in this? I mean, we've mentioned the big businesses, we've mentioned the small businesses, we've mentioned the nonprofits, but who are some of the other stakeholders?
Well, one of the ones that I've mentioned a couple times as well, educational institutions.
Educational, yes.
As well as every individual who really can benefit from improved quality of life and access to resources. Just a thriving, growing community. Every person, every slice of our community is a stakeholder.
I think at our event a few weeks ago, I talked about a social brick initiative where if we're starting a community, we want to create a strong foundation. And each person, each corporation, each entity has an opportunity to represent one brick in that foundation. And sometimes the outside of that foundation looks very good, but we're missing some things in the middle. And so in terms of stakeholders, everyone in the community has a stake in this type of initiative.
Now, if somebody's in the audience and they're listening to our show and they think, ooh, this is good, I'd like to become involved, what do they do next? And then what are your next steps with this whole process? But who should they contact? Where can they get information?
Okay. The best contact would be, number one would be website. I have a website. It's www.h-cm.net. My email address is clr@h-cm.net. In terms of next steps, okay, at our previous event, again, we're taking in information. We're taking in data. So right now, if someone were to contact us and they say, we'd like to be on the list to get additional information, that's the stage that we're at right now. Now, I've spoken to about 6 or 7 representatives from larger corporations who really want to get involved with this initiative at our last event, and we're in the process of forming a larger event in September. We're pretty sure it's going to happen. We just don't have a confirmed date. But that's our next step, and I'm really excited about that. But I have to kind of hold it in until we get that date.
Yeah, that and another step too, some of that input, we will be creating a report based on some of these conversations.
I was going to
what
say,
we
if you've had 50 people at this event, you have 50 different ideas. And obviously some of them are going to be very similar or exactly the same, but then you're going to have some differences. So to be able to consolidate all that and summarize all that, that's the volume of work.
And that will begin to help with some of the direction. In addition to other conversations that will take place between now and our September event, and the September is going to contribute to it as well. But it will help us understand exactly what this community wants it to be.
Okay. Well, and as you mentioned earlier, Carlton, there are resources available to help people in their business. And so why don't you take a minute and let's talk about jacksmallbizhelp.org.
Yes.
Okay. Because I know you've been very involved with the roadmap that's on that. So.
We, at our meetings that you and I have, it's been, what, 3-4 years that we've...
It's probably been longer than that. It all kind of blurs.
I would say one of the catalysts for me in coming forward with social entrepreneurship was the jacksmallbizhelp.org, and where we met every quarter, and one day we just asked a question, you know, what does everyone do? And so if I were a small business, you know, do I think you perform the same duties that you say you perform? And so we had a analysis amongst ourselves as resource providers, and we were all over the place, and we talk all the time, and we refer people. And that was kind of the starting point for me, understanding how valuable the resources are that we have in our region. Very few regions actually come together as a resource
Boy,
group.
is that true.
Okay,
Yeah.
the way that we do. And so this is collectively one way for us to kind of, push the needle a little bit and say that, Jacksonville and Northeast Florida is entrepreneurial. I think if we can get to that point, we can attract more people to our area. We can attract, hopefully, some investors that are willing to invest in our small businesses, okay? And maybe we reduce a little bit of the risk in terms of financing businesses, because if lenders and investors know that there's a strong support system for entrepreneurs and small business owners in that region, okay, then they're more likely to invest in that region. And so we have a lot at stake, but we have a lot of opportunity with what we have right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and when you said, all of these government nonprofit agencies who provide services to small business work together, we are very unique. There
Yes.
are not a lot of places where you have, especially as you talk about with the nonprofit organizations, there's limited funding available to support those organizations. Mm-hmm. And so when you have organizations that are a little bit similar, that tend to collaborate with their services, they're still fighting for, competing for that funding. So to be in a position of being a competitor for funding and a collaborator for providing services to the business community, we are very unique and
Yes.
very fortunate in that way. As I go around to some of the other cities in Florida even, and I'm sure, I know, Carlton, you go a little bit beyond just the state of Florida, but, I'm amazed when I talk to other SBDCs and they have multiple chambers competing, and this one doesn't talk to that one, and it's crazy. Whereas here, you go to jacksmallbiz.help, you put in what you need or what you think you need, and boom, it goes, well, check out these, check out that one, check out that one, and if it's something, if the scenario is a little different, then you get referred to some different scenarios. So as a basis or a starting point at the very least, I think we are so fortunate.
And I wanted to add just one thing to the Jack's Small Biz Help. We were able, in developing that roadmap, we were able to take some things from academia in terms of the types of entrepreneurs, which is extremely important. Those people who are opportunity entrepreneurs who may have a new service or product that they're bringing to market versus someone who's a necessity entrepreneur who is in business because that's the most viable income stream for them. Assisting those two people requires two different mindsets.
Absolutely.
And two different types of resources. And we were able to capture that with this roadmap and help steer people in terms of what they need for small business development.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if anybody's doing this, and either one of you may know this, but I think what would be a very interesting number to look at is the number of unemployed that are in that unemployment. We have X% unemployment. The number of folks that are in that category and being counted as unemployed who are actually in the business startup, which may only be creating their own job. Mm-hmm. But I think that would be an interesting statistic, to look at, because I think there's a pretty good sized number of those folks that are amongst the ranks of the unemployed who are really moving over into the ranks of being a business owner. And like I said, I don't know that anybody's measuring that, and I'm not quite sure how you would measure that.
Right.
But I think it would be an interesting number to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So
A lot of opportunity.
a lot of opportunity, and I think sometimes for some people, they really want to be in their own business. Maybe they are innovative and entrepreneurial, or maybe they just want to own their own job. Mm-hmm. But they're afraid to give up that paycheck working for that company, and now all of a sudden they get downsized. They don't have another choice. Right. And so now it's like, okay, let's take a deep breath, torpedoes ahead or whatever you want to say. Now I've always wanted to do this. I've been afraid to do it, but now I don't have a choice. And some of them are turning out some very successful businesses.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure you see that with your clients as well, you know. And in your area, especially, Anna, with the accounting and the whole financing area, I think most business owners, at least that we see at the Small Business Development Center, that's where they're least comfortable, is, you know, looking at ratios and all of those numbers. And so being able to put all of this together to help them not only create their own bottom line, but to look at that triple bottom line concept that we were talking about earlier.
It's that rising tide.
Yes.
I'm uncomfortable looking at those ratios.
Well, I can understand that. We're getting out of time here, so is there any last comments either of you would like to make on this whole topic?
Well, I'd just like to circle back and say that the recent JCCI study on the recession and economic recovery had as a resource in the back a list of 40 service providers in our community. And they even said it wasn't an exhaustive list. And it ranged all the way from the Amelia Island, Yulee, Fernandina Chamber of Commerce in A to the W of WorkSource. And providing a lot of great services here. And I think Carlton has commented and received feedback too from the folks who were involved in putting together the New Orleans Social Entrepreneurship initiative, that we have what we need here in this community to make social entrepreneurship a success for us. And so we're really excited about the next steps of having this move.
Well, good. And with that note, we're out of time. So you in the audience, join us next time when we'll be speaking of business. But more importantly, if you want to weigh in on this topic, you can go to Carlton's website, which is www.h-c as in Charlie, M as in Mary.net. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time when we're speaking of business. Bye now.
You're watching Public Access on Xfinity 99, exclusive programming for Jacksonville Xfinity subscribers.